The past handful of years had been devoted to discovering if travel to other realms was possible. That had taken much longer than anticipated. So many Fae said it was impossible. A fine notion indeed, but not something any Fae will be able to do for generations. Yet she'd looked at the stars and knew it was possible. A select few believed it could be done, but were unwilling to talk. She'd settled on one and earned her trust over many months. Even then, the professor hadn't shared everything. Once Ailis had the basics, she focused on what she needed to accomplish her task. In her mind, magic was magic. All she had to do was discover how to work it. However, it hadn't taken Ailis long to realize it wasn't nearly as easy as she had believed. It wasn't just creating a Fae doorway. She had to get the location correct so she didn't walk through and find herself in space or a volcano. Creating that kind of doorway took an astonishing amount of power, knowledge, and expertise. Not to mention the restraint needed to control the magic used so she didn't rip a tear in time and space. Of course, that was the theory, or so she'd been told, but she had to start somewhere. Ailis had meticulously studied everything about developing her magic. All Fae were inherently born with it. It was part of them, like talking and breathing. For some, the ability to master complicated magic was easy. For others, they had to work at it. Always, though, Fae craved to be more powerful. Ailis was shocked at what she'd learned and how much her magic had flourished just from taking the time and absorbing the lessons in the numerous books she read. She stood in the middle of the cottage and held the small book between her hands, wishing Bee was with her. But Ailis would take this adventure on her own. She cracked open the book, the pages yellowed from time cracking as they separated. It was this little tome that had put her into her current situation. She had stumbled upon a contact who'd spoken about the book in soft whispers, glancing around to make sure no one heard him. From then, she had made it her mission to locate it. Sadly, that had taken far longer than she had hoped. But if Bee had taught her anything, it was to never give up. Once Ailis discovered who had the book, she'd sought out the owners and offered to purchase it. They'd instantly rejected her. She'd then offered payment if she could study it, in their home if that's what they wished. They also refused that proposal. So she'd done what any adventurer being denied something would do. She'd borrowed it. Ailis had every intention of returning it when she finished, but she'd made the mistake of not waiting before she stole the book. The fact that the owner happened to be the king's sister made an already complicated situation volatile. And when the king sent his guard, it told Ailis they wouldn't give her time to explain. They were after her head. At the end of the day, she had taken something that wasn't hers. Ailis inhaled deeply to calm her racing heart. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her hands shook. Was it excitement or fear? A little bit of both. She couldn't remember ever being so terrified and enthusiastic at the same time. She had dreamed of this moment for what felt like a lifetime. She'd thought she would have more time to study the book and ensure her magic was ready before creating the doorway and walking through. Fate had decided differently. "Best laid plans and all," she whispered Bee's favorite saying. She glanced at the door. They would come here for her. Family was always the next stop. She needed to go somewhere else, a place no one would think to look. Somewhere she'd have the opportunity to read at least the section she needed, if not the entire book. She mentally ticked off locations one by one, but none of them seemed right. With her blood pumping in her ears, Ailis teleported a dozen times in rapid succession. It was rare among the Fae for someone to be able to follow another's magic when they jumped, but the King of the Dark recruited those who could do it to find any Fae on the run. The ability was time-consuming, and the more stops Ailis made, the more time it would take the Fae to locate her, and the more time she would have to read. Time. She'd always had so much of it, but now it ran between her fingers like grains of sand. The tighter she held onto it, the faster it seemed to disappear. She finally stopped teleporting. A quick look around confirmed the only thing Ailis would run into was one of the black deer that called the forest home.